A couple of nights ago, I was on the phone talking to one of my homeboys who happens to be a Florida fan. And we were going through the Gators' schedule for this upcoming season, giving our record predictions game by game. And of course, we started off with their week one matchup against Utah. And we spent, 45 minutes to an hour going back and forth on this game because he believes that the Gators have a really good shot at upsetting Utah. Now, I was a little bit taken back by this. Now, he isn't one of your overly optimistic fans in the offseason that thinks that his team is going to go undefeated every single year. He's pretty realistic when it comes to Florida football. He knows this program inside and outside. So when he says something pertaining to Gators football, I respect it. Now, of course, I do my own research and due diligence as well. But he's pretty on the money the majority of the times when it comes to the Florida Gators football program. So I went and I looked at the odds for this matchup. And I was really surprised that Utah, according to most sports booking websites, was only a 1.5 point favorite in this matchup. Now, this is a team that's coming off a Pac-12 championship, and they returned 17 out of 22 starters from last year's team. Now, I was asking him, okay, why do you believe that the Gators have a great chance at upsetting Utah? Why are you so confident about Florida's chances of winning this game? He said, well, first of all, JT, they are a West Coast team, and they have to travel all the way down to Florida, and they're playing in the swamp. And playing in Florida is not that easy if you're a team that's not used to the weather. It's really humid, it's muggy. I don't think it's going to be incredibly hot when this game ends up kicking off because it's later in the day around nighttime, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I said, okay, I can understand that. But what else are you giving me? Okay, he also says that we have Anthony Richardson at quarterback. And if you guys have been listening to the podcast, I have something called the superstar quarterback theory, which I believe that if you have a superstar quarterback in college football, you should be able to win at least 7 games or more as long as you have a above average team around him. And if Anthony Richardson is as good as what we all think he will be this year, there's no reason why Florida shouldn't be able to win or compete in every single game they played this year. So I say, okay, you got Anthony Richardson, I can understand that. And he also said that Florida is going into this season with the best offensive line that they have had in recent memory. And I agree with that. However, I said, okay, if Florida's going to be able to upset Utah, how effective are they going to be able to run the football against Utah's defense? Because Utah's run defense was really good last year. It was 21st in college football in rushing yards per game allowed. Now, they do lose 2 of their starting linebackers, Nafai Sewell and Devin Lloyd, to the NFL draft. But they're going to be replacing those 2 guys with Mohamoud Diabate, who happens to ironically be a transfer from the University of Florida. And then you also have talented true freshman linebacker Landon Barton, who should end up getting the start at the other linebacker position for Utah's defense. He was a 4-star recruit coming out of the 2022 class. He was the 7th best linebacker in the nation, the 96th best player overall. And Utah also has a lot of talent and depth on their defensive line, so they can rotate guys in and out to keep people fresh for this game. Now, Florida has a really phenomenal group of running backs. You have Montrell Johnson, Naquan Wright, and Lorenzo Lingard, who is coming off a really good spring. And I expect Montrell Johnson and Lorenzo Lingard to really be the 2 running backs who get the bulk load of carries for Florida this season. Now, I know that Florida probably should have a good amount of success on the ground. You have talent at running back, and also you have to account for Anthony Richardson's ability to run the football as well. But my biggest concern for Florida in this matchup, and the reason why I have a hard time seeing Florida pulling off the upset, is because they're wide receivers. Now, I love Justin Shorter and Xavier Henderson. Okay, but Florida doesn't really have a lot of depth behind those two. And I really question, how good are these wide receivers going to be in this game against a really good secondary? Utah has cornerback Clark Phillips, who is one of the best cornerbacks in college football this season. He is expected to be a first-round, second-round draft pick in next year's NFL draft. You have Jatavius Broughton, safety Cole Bishop. So Florida's passing attack, at least when it comes to weapons at wide receiver, I don't really know if I have a lot of confidence in them in this matchup. And also, when you look at Florida, on the defensive side of the ball, how well are they going to match up against Utah's physical offense? Because Utah is not your prototypical Pac-12 team. And I was telling this to my friend on the phone. I was saying that Utah isn't one of those finesse Pac-12 teams that aren't really all that good up front. Utah is one of the most physical teams in all of college football. And they are one of the most physical Pac-12 teams that I have seen in a very long time. How is Utah going to be able to slow down running back Tavion Thomas, who is one of the better running backs in all of college football? Now, he countered this. He said, well, JT, Florida has a really solid front seven, led by Gervin Dexter, Brenton Cox, and Ventrell Miller. And I said, okay, that's respectable. But do you have enough depth at defensive line to keep those guys fresh? Because Utah is a physical smash mouth football. Their offense isn't anything special. All they want to do is run the football down your throat and impose their will on you for the first 3 quarters and then tire you out in the 4th quarter. Now, they also have one of the best tight end groups in all of America. You have Brent Keithy and Dalton Kincaid. For Florida, do you have any linebackers or safeties who can match up with these two tight ends? Because they're not blocking tight ends. I was telling him that these are 2 really good all-around tight ends. They block very well, and they also catch the ball at a really high level, especially Brent Keithy. Like, Brent Keithy, after the catch, is kind of like a wide receiver. He's really elusive, really nimble. So does Florida have really any defensive backs or any linebackers who can cover these 2 guys? Because I really think that this is going to be the focal point of Utah's offense in this game. If Florida cannot slow down these 2 tight ends, you don't really have a great shot at winning this game. And the biggest question that I have is, does Florida have the depth to match up with the physicality of Utah? This is a team that doesn't run away from anything. They're physical. You're going to leave this game, regardless if you win or not, waking up the next morning sore, really sore. And you're going to be bruised and you're going to be battered. So for Florida, I'm not saying that they don't have a chance to win this game. But I kind of think that Utah should at least win this game by 10 points. I think Florida can keep it competitive, but I do think that late in this game, I think Florida's questions at depth are going to show themselves, and I think that Utah is going to end up pulling away late in the 4th quarter. Now, you probably are going to counter that after you're a Florida fan and say, well, JT, what about Utah's wide receivers versus our corners? And I understand that. Utah's wide receivers aren't super impressive, but at the same time, the majority of their passing attack is predicated off their 2 talented tight ends. So if you can't stop Kincaid and Keithy, then you really don't have a great shot. So let me know what you guys think about Florida going into this matchup. Do you guys think that Florida has a great chance of upsetting Utah week 1? Because if you had to ask me how confident would I be on a scale of 1 through 10 on Florida's chances of upsetting Utah, I probably would go 4 out of 10. And I'm not saying this because I don't think Florida's going to be a solid football team this year. I think they could win 7-8 games. I just think that Utah is just that good. I really think that Utah is a top 5 football team going into this season. I think they are that talented. This is a team that overachieved last year in a lot of people's eyes. Nobody expected Utah to have the kind of success that they did last year. If you would have told me that Utah was going to beat Oregon not once but twice in the fashion that they did, I would have been extremely surprised at you. If you were to tell me that Utah would be able to hold their own against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, I would have been a little bit surprised as well. Now, it's not as if I thought Utah was going to get ran out of the building by Ohio State, but I just wasn't expecting them to go toe for toe, blow for blow with the Buckeyes, trading blows. And Utah had a pretty good shot at winning that game. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below if you're listening to this on YouTube.